First one should have been pretty straightforward because that's read straight off the table. X less than 127, so that's a bit different because we now are into this interval here. So you need to think, what's your interval width? Which is 5. Your interval part. So you're going from 125 to 127 is 2. And so I want to find 2/5 of 10. So that should be 4. And so then for my probability is going to be 4 for that interval plus all of these others as frequencies. You could have written this as a relative frequency as well. So the other option is to turn that out at 279. And all those other frequencies, whatever they end up being. We could have used complementary events here too, but it's easier to kind of work forwards with this one, I feel, rather than having that compounded complexity with the complement. So all up, I'm getting 269 on 279. All right, so putting the midpoints into list 1, the frequencies into list 2. We don't have the relative frequencies here. These are actual measurements. They are not probabilities. So they're the actual measurements. So we put in the actual frequencies, not the relative frequencies. And then we call up the stats. List 1, list 2 is your frequency, etc. All right, next one, a little bit tricky. I can already hear people discussing. What do? Firstly, we need to work out what those values are. So what's the mean? Take the standard deviation. 94.1. And the mean plus the standard deviation. So 114.9, yep, good. All right, and so then we want the probability between 94.1 and 114.9.
Why did last time you add 0.5 or
Because this time here, there's no need because there's no gap. See how we're going from 95 to 95? There's no gap. Whereas last time there was a gap. So we want that continuum.
But we made it a continuum. So
correct.
We still have to add the 0.5.
So here, yeah, because we're using these ones where there's no gap, right? So that's where the 0.5s are coming from. Oh, you're talking about here because each data point needs to is not at because it's we're matching continuous data. To say at 180, you actually need to go from 179.5 to 180.5. You need that continuum.
There and not everywhere else.
Because this is already continuous data and the other one is already continuous data. But the second example is not.
Okay.
So that's why. But we have to model it as continuous data. It's not a particularly good example, but it was what was given to us by Skizzer, and that's why we're giving it to you, because that was a particular example that they suggested we show the students. All right, so 94.1 is in the interval 90 to 95, which has an interval width of 5, an interval part of 0.9, and I guess the frequency as well could be listed at 60. And the other one is in the interval from 110 to 115, and the frequency for that one is 30. So what we're doing now is we're just saying how many crabs are within that part, that portion, right? That 94.1 to 95 and 110 to 114.9. That's what we're doing right now. So we want to go from 94.1, which we decided was 10 point, how many results was it? 10.8, so 11.
Oh, we have to round?
And, well, we could round at the end actually, 10.8. And then 50 is included, 50 is included, plus the 45. And then we're suggesting another 29, from that last interval. So all of those are within 1 standard deviation of the mean, is the point. Right? All of those. So that should be 145, 175, 185. So you've got 185 scores out of 279, which is around about 0.66. So that's the final answer. So, suggest with reasons if illegal fishing of these crabs has been occurring. What do we think? Yes? Why? Yeah, you haven't got, exceeding 127 millimetres, there is quite a little. Yeah, so there's, I think it's 10, right? 10 crabs out of 279. So all those others are too small and haven't had enough time to grow for the next season.
What crabs are they allowed to take? Are they allowed to take no crabs? No, they have to take bigger ones.
They have to take bigger.
So they have been taken.
Yeah, so this is the season, right? So hardly any crabs have grown to size. Hardly any crabs have grown to size. We've got 10, pretty much. So what happened? So the previous season, this was collected at the end of the closed season, right? The data's been collected at the end of the closed season. So the crabs have had all this time to grow to size, and yet most of them haven't grown to size. And so that tells you that illegal fishing's occurred of these crabs because they haven't grown to size. There's so many that haven't grown to size.
But you're allowed to
such a large proportion. Correct. But this is the end of the closed season, right? So they've had 6 months. You're only allowed to do crabbing for so many months.
Yeah.
They've had 6 months to grow, but they haven't grown big enough. So people have been taking all the crabs that aren't big enough. That already.
That makes no sense.